Someone secretly noticed how you dress. What they're saying will shock you. Pause for a moment and listen to this, because this message is for you and your heart needs this right now, and the timing of you hearing these words is not accidental, it's alignment, it's that quiet nudge from the universe that says stay right here, because something subtle yet powerful has been unfolding around you without you realizing it, and it starts with something you may have thought was small, something ordinary, something you never imagined carried this kind of energy, the way you dress, the way you show up, the way you've been carrying yourself lately. Listen to this, because someone has been noticing, not in a surface-level way, not casually, but deeply, intentionally, almost reverently, and what they're saying about you behind the scenes is far more emotional than you'd expect. This message is for you, because you've been changing, even if you didn't announce it, even if you didn't consciously decide it. Something in you shifted, and it started showing on the outside. In the colors you choose, the confidence in your posture, the way you move through a room with less apology and more presence. And listen to this, presence is magnetic, presence speaks before words ever do, and the universe uses presence to signal alignment. Your heart needs this right now, because you may have felt a little different lately, more grounded, more aware, maybe even more selective. And you might have thought it was just maturity or mood, but it was awakening, it was your soul recalibrating, and when that happens, others feel it, even if they can't explain why, and there is someone who felt it strongly, someone who noticed the way your energy changed when you walked by, the way your clothing no longer tried to hide you but expressed you, the way you looked comfortable in yourself in a way that made them stop and think. Listen to this, because they didn't just notice what you wore, they noticed what it represented. Healing, confidence, self-respect, a sense of self that no longer needs approval, and that shook something in them. This message is for you, because they started talking about you, quietly, carefully, in conversations that weren't meant for you to hear, and what they said wasn't shallow, it wasn't about attraction alone, it was about how you carry yourself now, how you seem different, how there's something calm and powerful about you that wasn't there before. Your heart needs this right now. Because you didn't dress that way to be noticed, you dressed that way because something inside you aligned, and alignment always gets attention. Listen to this, the universe often uses the smallest details to confirm the biggest shifts, and this is one of those confirmations, because while you were just living your life, choosing outfits that felt right, colors that matched your mood, styles that felt like you, someone else was having an internal reaction they didn't expect, wondering why they couldn't stop thinking about you, wondering why your image stayed with them longer than it should have, wondering why something as simple as the way you dressed felt so meaningful. This message is for you, because that's not coincidence, that's soul recognition beginning to stir, and soul recognition doesn't always come through dramatic moments. Sometimes it arrives through subtle awareness, through noticing, through admiration that grows quietly into curiosity, and then into something deeper. Listen to this, because after they noticed you, signs started appearing around them, repeating numbers when your face crossed their mind, songs that reminded them of your presence, moments of stillness where they felt drawn to think about you without knowing why. And your heart needs this right now, because you may have felt it too, those moments when you felt seen without being looked at, when your intuition nudged you for no clear reason, when you caught 11:11 or 2:22 and felt a strange calm wash over you. Those are energetic responses, confirmations that something unseen is connecting. This message is for you, because the way you dress now is an extension of your healing. And healing is attractive on a soul level. It doesn't scream for attention, it radiates, and that radiance invites reflection. And listen to this, the person who noticed you began questioning themselves, questioning their standards, their readiness, their emotional availability, all. Because your presence mirrored something they hadn't faced yet. Your heart needs this right now, because you didn't do anything wrong, you didn't try to provoke anything, you simply became more yourself, and becoming yourself is the most disruptive thing you can do to misaligned energies. Listen to this: when someone sees you embody confidence and authenticity, it forces them to confront where they've been hiding, and that's what happened. They spoke about you with a mix of admiration and disbelief, saying things like, "There's something different about them now, they seem so sure of themselves, they don't try anymore," and that's what makes it powerful, and those words carry weight, because they reveal impact. This message is for you, because impact doesn't always announce itself immediately, sometimes it echoes later, in private conversations, in late-night thoughts, in quiet realizations, and your heart needs this right now, because you've been learning to validate yourself instead of waiting for external affirmation, and yet here's the universe gently reminding you that your growth is visible, felt, acknowledged. Listen to this: soulmate connections often begin this way, through awareness before approach, through observation before confession, through recognition before action, and this is a stage of awakening, not just for them, but for you too, because you're learning that you don't have to shrink, soften, or blend in to be loved. You're learning that alignment speaks louder than performance, and that lesson is preparing you for what comes next. This message is for you, because what they're saying now is only the beginning. Awareness leads to curiosity, curiosity leads to reflection, reflection leads to choice, and choice leads to movement, but none of that requires you to change or chase anything. Your role is simply to remain aligned, to keep honoring who you've become, to trust the signs you're seeing, the numbers, the feelings, the quiet confirmations that keep showing up. Your heart needs this right now, because the universe is acknowledging you through this moment, saying yes, you're on the right path, yes, your growth is real, yes, you are being seen in ways you never imagined, and while you may not yet know how or when this awareness will surface openly, you can trust that what has been noticed cannot be unseen, what has been felt cannot be unfelt, and what has been spoken in quiet moments is already influencing what unfolds next. So stay present, stay grounded, stay authentic, because the way you show up now is rewriting the story in ways you don't yet fully see, and this moment, this realization, is only the opening note of something much deeper beginning to resonate. Listen closely, because this part goes deeper than you expect, and if you feel something shift in your chest while reading this, that's your confirmation that this message is still meant for you, because after someone noticed how you dress, after they quietly observed the way you carry yourself now, something changed inside them that they didn't plan for, and this wasn't admiration that faded, it lingered, it followed them home, it showed up in moments of silence, and listen to this, they started replaying small details in their mind, the way you walked, the confidence in your posture, the calm certainty in your presence, and they couldn't shake the feeling that what they were seeing wasn't just style, it was self-respect made visible, it was healing worn on the outside, and that realization unsettled them in the best and worst ways at the same time, because when someone sees another person embodying alignment, it forces an internal comparison, and they began asking themselves questions they had avoided for a long time, questions like, why do I feel drawn to this energy, why does this person feel different, why do I feel seen without them even speaking to me, and listen to this, those questions didn't stay quiet, they spilled into conversations, into moments where your name came up unexpectedly, into discussions that started casually but turned reflective, and what they said would surprise you. Because it wasn't about attraction alone, it was about how you represent something they're not yet living. They talked about how you seem comfortable in your own skin, how you don't dress for approval but for expression, how there's a quiet confidence about you that feels rare, and this message is for you, because they didn't just notice how you dress, they noticed how you've stopped shrinking, and that's powerful. And listen to this, power doesn't always come from loud confidence, it often comes from calm certainty. The kind that doesn't need validation, and that certainty triggered something in them, a mix of admiration and longing, because they recognized something familiar in you, something that felt like home to their spirit, even if their mind didn't know how to label it yet. And your heart needs this right now, because soulmate connections often activate through subtle recognition before any words are exchanged, before any action is taken. And this recognition can feel overwhelming for the person experiencing it, especially if they're not used to confronting their own emotional truth. And listen to this, they started noticing signs after noticing you, repeating numbers at random moments, 11:11 when they thought about you, 3:33 when they questioned their own readiness, 5:55 when they felt restless and unable to sleep. And these numbers weren't coincidences, they were signals, nudges from the universe saying pay attention, something is awakening here, and this message is for you, because you may have been sensing this shift too, feeling a strange pull, a sense of being energetically acknowledged even without direct contact. Moments where you felt unusually confident or unusually calm without knowing why. Those are reflections, energetic echoes of awareness forming on the other side. And listen to this, awareness is the first step of awakening, but awakening isn't always comfortable, because it asks people to look at what they've settled for, what they've avoided, what they've postponed, and seeing you triggered that reflection, because your presence represents choice, not pressure, but possibility, and that's intimidating when someone isn't sure they're ready to choose differently. And your heart needs this right now, because none of this happened because you tried to impress anyone, it happened because you aligned with yourself, and alignment naturally attracts attention from souls who are either ready to rise or about to feel exposed by what they're not yet living. And listen to this, the way you dress now is symbolic, it's a visual expression of internal boundaries, it says I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I'm no longer hiding. And that message was received loud and clear, even if it wasn't spoken aloud. And the shock isn't that they noticed, the shock is what they realized about themselves because of it. They realized they've been playing small, avoiding depth, settling for comfort over authenticity, and seeing you stirred a desire to be more. But desire without courage creates tension, and that tension is what they're sitting with now. And this message is for you, because while they're processing, you're being protected, you're being guided to stay grounded, to not chase validation, to not overinterpret signs, but to trust that what's meant to surface will do so in its own time. And listen to this, the universe doesn't rush awakenings, it orchestrates them, and orchestration requires patience, and patience doesn't mean passivity, it means trust, trust that you don't need to adjust yourself to be chosen, because you're already aligned with what's meant to meet you, and your heart needs this right now, because you may be tempted to downplay your impact, to tell yourself you imagined it, to minimize the way others respond to your energy. But this message is reminding you that your presence carries weight, your growth is visible, and your authenticity is magnetic. And listen to this, the person who noticed you is now at a crossroads internally, whether they admit it or not, they're questioning whether they can remain the same after seeing you, and that's not your responsibility to manage. It's simply a reflection of the effect alignment has on those who encounter And this is where things become interesting, because recognition leads to choice, and choice leads to action or avoidance, and either way, truth has been activated, and truth doesn't disappear once it's seen, and your heart needs this right now, because you're not meant to shrink back into invisibility after being seen, you're meant to continue showing up as you are, confident, expressive, grounded, and open, without attachment to outcome. Because outcome is not your job here, embodiment is, and embodiment is already changing the energy around you. And listen to this, this is the kind of moment that later gets remembered as the beginning, not because something dramatic happened immediately, but because awareness shifted, and awareness changes trajectories. And here's the line that matters, the one I want you to pause on, reflect on, and maybe even respond to, because it speaks directly to this moment. Have you noticed people reacting differently to you lately, even without you doing anything differently? Sit with that question, because your answer reveals how much you've grown, and as you reflect on it, trust that what's unfolding is not random, it's responsive to the way you've chosen yourself, your confidence, your authenticity, your healing, and while you don't yet see the full picture, you can feel that something has been set in motion, something that started with observation, moved into recognition, and is now quietly reshaping the emotional landscape around you. And this phase is not about forcing clarity, it's about staying aligned, staying present, and letting the universe reveal the next layer when the time is right, because what has been noticed cannot be unseen, and what has been awakened cannot return to sleep. Stay with this moment, because what's unfolding now isn't loud or obvious, it's precise, and precision is how the universe moves when it's protecting something meaningful, and your heart needs this right now because the awareness that was stirred didn't stop at curiosity, it deepened into recognition, and recognition has consequences, especially for someone who wasn't planning to feel anything at all. And listen closely. They started to notice patterns forming around you that they couldn't logically explain, little alignments that seemed to orbit your presence, like hearing a song that carried your energy, or seeing your favorite color everywhere without trying, or catching the time at 11. 11 right after a thought of you crossed their mind. And these weren't dramatic signs meant to scare them, they were gentle confirmations meant to steady them, because when a soul recognizes another soul, the universe tends to underline it softly before it speaks clearly, and this message is for you because you may have felt a corresponding shift inside yourself, a sense of calm curiosity rather than anxious wondering, a quiet knowing instead of a need to chase answers, and that's important. Because it means you're meeting this energy from a grounded place, not from old patterns, and listen to this, grounded energy changes the way connections form, it slows them down just enough to allow truth to surface without pressure, and that's exactly what's happening here. The person who noticed you is now observing themselves observing you, which sounds subtle but it's powerful, because self-observation is the gateway to honesty. And honesty is where things stop being accidental and start becoming intentional, and your heart needs this right now because intention is not something you have to demand from others, it emerges naturally when alignment is present, and alignment has been building quietly around you for a while, even before you were fully aware of it. And listen to this, they began asking different questions, not, do I like this person? But, why does this feel familiar? Not, what do I want from them? But, what is this showing me about myself? And those questions don't come from surface-level attraction, they come from soul recognition, the kind that bypasses ego and speaks directly to the nervous system, and this message is for you because you don't need to interpret every pause or silence as uncertainty. Sometimes silence is where courage is being assembled, and courage is rarely instant when the stakes feel real. And listen to this. The stakes feel real because your presence didn't just catch their attention, it challenged their comfort, and comfort can be seductive, but it's also limiting, and seeing you reminded them of a version of themselves that once felt alive, curious, expressive, and honest, and that reminder can feel both inspiring and unsettling, especially if someone has been settling for less than they know they deserve, and your heart needs this right now because it explains why the energy feels focused but restrained. Like something is gathering momentum without rushing forward, because rushing would distort what's trying to form, and distortion is what the universe avoids when something has long-term significance. And listen to this, you may have noticed yourself feeling more patient than usual, less reactive, more observant, and that's not coincidence, it's preparation, because preparation doesn't always look like action. It often looks like clarity, and clarity has been settling into you gently, allowing you to see without projecting, to sense without assuming, and to remain open without attaching yourself to outcome. And this message is for you because openness without attachment is a sign of maturity, and maturity attracts connections that can meet you where you are, not where you used to be. And listen to this. They are becoming aware that whatever they're feeling isn't something they can control or ignore, it's something they need to understand, and understanding requires slowing down, paying attention, and being honest about what resonates and what doesn't, and that process is happening now, quietly, steadily, without needing your involvement, and your heart needs this right now because it means you don't have to do anything differently. You don't have to signal, hint, or explain yourself, your alignment is already communicating everything necessary, and listen to this, alignment speaks through consistency, through the way you show up the same regardless of who's watching. And that consistency is what made the noticing deepen into reflection, because it showed them that what they sensed wasn't situational, it was who you are. And this message is for you because it's easy to underestimate the impact of simply being yourself when you've spent time healing, but healing changes your frequency, and frequency is felt before it's understood. And listen to this, they've started to notice how different your energy feels compared to others they interact with, how conversations with you linger mentally even after they end, how your presence doesn't drain them, it steadies them, and steadiness is rare in a world addicted to intensity, and that rarity makes people pause, reassess, and reconsider what they thought they wanted, and your heart needs this right now because it confirms that your growth isn't invisible, it's influential, and influence doesn't always show up as immediate action, it often shows up as internal shifts that take time to translate into behavior. And listen to this. Behavior follows belief, and belief is what's being challenged and reshaped right now. Beliefs about connection, about readiness, about worth, and about what's possible when two people meet from a place of authenticity rather than need. And this message is for you because you're no longer operating from the old belief that love has to be chased or proven. You're allowing it to approach you naturally. And that allowance is what's making space for something real to form without force. And listen to this. As this awareness continues to unfold, you may notice moments of synchronicity increasing around you, not just numbers, but conversations aligning, opportunities opening, feelings of being supported without explanation. Those are signals that you're moving in harmony with what's meant to meet you. And your heart needs this right now because it reassures you that you're not waiting, you're aligning, and alignment is active even when it feels still. And listen to this. Stillness is not stagnation, it's integration, and integration is necessary before anything lasting can take shape, and this is where patience becomes a form of self-respect rather than delay. Because you're no longer willing to rush into clarity at the expense of truth, and this message is for you because it affirms that you're doing something right, even if you can't yet see the full picture, and listen to this, the full picture doesn't arrive all at once, it reveals itself in layers. Each one timed to your readiness, and readiness is not about urgency. It's about stability, and stability is what you're embodying now, and as you continue to hold that steadiness, trust that what has been noticed, what has been recognized, and what has been awakened will find its expression in a way that matches the depth of what's forming, because depth doesn't rush, it settles, and once it settles, it changes everything quietly, permanently, and without needing to announce itself. Stay right here with this feeling, because this is where the energy shifts from awareness into meaning, and your heart needs this right now not to predict an outcome, but to understand why everything feels different beneath the surface, because after recognition settles, something else begins to happen quietly, something deeper, and that is integration, the moment when what was noticed starts changing how someone moves through their inner world. And listen closely, the person who noticed you is no longer just observing, they're reflecting, replaying interactions not to analyze you, but to understand why their own reaction surprised them, why their body softened, why their thoughts lingered longer than expected, and this wasn't nostalgia or fantasy, it was alignment brushing against readiness, and alignment doesn't shout, it reorganizes priorities. And this message is for you because you may have felt a similar reorganization within yourself, a release of urgency, a sense that you don't need answers right away, that something is aligning even if you can't name it yet, and that sense is not imagined, it's a response to movement happening energetically, and listen to this, they began noticing how different they feel around you compared to others, how conversations don't feel draining or performative, how silence doesn't feel awkward but grounded. And that kind of ease is unfamiliar to people who are used to intensity as a substitute for connection, and your heart needs this right now because ease often gets misinterpreted as boredom when someone hasn't experienced safety before, but this time, they didn't dismiss it, they questioned it, and questioning is growth, and listen to this, growth often begins with discomfort, the discomfort of realizing you've been operating from patterns that no longer fit, and seeing you activated that realization, because your presence reflects boundaries, self-respect, and calm confidence, and those qualities don't just attract attention, they invite introspection, and this message is for you because introspection is where transformation begins, and transformation doesn't always lead someone directly toward another person, it first leads them back to themselves, to reassess what they want, what they're capable of offering, and what they're no longer willing to settle for, and listen to this, they're sitting with questions they didn't expect to ask, questions about emotional availability, about timing, about weather. They're living in alignment or just routine, and these questions didn't come from pressure, they came from resonance, and resonance is powerful because it bypasses defenses, and your heart needs this right now because it explains why nothing feels forced, why there's no dramatic push or pull, why the energy feels steady rather than chaotic, because chaos belongs to misalignment, and what's forming here is not chaotic, it's intentional, even if it hasn't taken shape yet. And listen to this, you may have noticed your intuition sharpening lately, moments where you feel clear without needing proof, moments where you trust yourself more deeply, and that's not coincidence, it's alignment strengthening your internal compass, and this message is for you because you're being asked to honor that clarity rather than override it with doubt, because doubt often comes from old versions of you that needed certainty to feel safe. And you don't live there anymore, and listen to this, the person who noticed you is becoming aware of that difference, the difference between how they feel around you and how they feel in spaces where they have to perform, explain, or suppress themselves, and that awareness is creating a quiet tension, not because something is wrong, but because something real demands honesty, and honesty requires courage, and courage doesn't arrive all at once, it builds, and your heart needs this right now because building takes time. And time is not a delay, it's a safeguard. It ensures that whatever forms is rooted in truth rather than impulse, and listen to this, impulse fades, truth remains, and what's being felt here is not fleeting, it's steady, and steadiness can feel unfamiliar if someone has equated love with intensity, but unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong, it means new, and this message is for you because you're no longer confusing intensity with depth, you recognize depth by how safe it feels, by how grounded you remain, and by how little you feel the need to overthink, and listen to this, that groundedness is what's allowing this connection to develop without distortion, without fantasy, without projection, and that's rare, and rarity attracts attention from souls who are either ready to evolve or about to feel exposed by their own stagnation, and your heart needs this right now because you're not responsible for managing anyone else's process, your role is simply to remain aligned. And alignment doesn't rush clarity, it allows it, and listen to this, allowing is not passive, it's active trust, trust that what's meant to move forward will do so without you pushing, and trust that what's not ready will reveal itself through delay rather than confusion, and this message is for you because it's easy to mistake delay for disinterest when you've been conditioned to expect immediacy, but this energy is different, it's deliberate, measured, and respectful. And listen to this. Respect is the foundation of anything lasting, and respect begins internally, with someone acknowledging their own capacity and limitations, and that's what they're doing now, quietly evaluating whether they can meet the standard your presence sets, and your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you don't need to lower yourself to be approachable, the right connections rise to meet you, and listen to this. Rising doesn't happen overnight, it happens through reflection, choice, and gradual alignment. And that process is underway, regardless of whether you see it, and this message is for you because it invites patience without sacrifice, openness without attachment, and confidence without arrogance, and those qualities are what keep you aligned with what's meant to find you, and listen to this. As this phase continues, you may feel moments of stillness that feel purposeful rather than empty, moments where nothing seems to be happening externally, but internally you feel settled. And that's integration, that's the universe giving space for everything to align properly, and your heart needs this right now because it reminds you that not all movement is visible, and not all progress is loud, and the most meaningful shifts often happen quietly, in moments of reflection, honesty, and readiness, and as this awareness continues to deepen on both sides, trust that what's forming will do so in a way that honors the growth you've already achieved, because anything that meets you now must be able to stand in that space without asking you to step backward, and that alone is confirmation that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Stay present with this feeling, because this is where understanding softens into trust, and your heart needs this right now not as reassurance, but as grounding, because after reflection comes choice, and choice doesn't always announce itself with action, sometimes it shows up as restraint, as patience, as someone deciding not to rush what finally feels real, and listen closely. The person who noticed you is now holding a quiet awareness that can't be undone, an awareness that your presence represents a turning point, not because you demanded anything, but because you embodied something they hadn't seen clearly before, and that realization carries weight, because it asks a question they can't avoid anymore. Am I living in alignment with what I feel, or am I hiding behind what's familiar? And this message is for you because you may sense that internal debate without hearing a single word, sensing it as a subtle energetic pull that doesn't feel chaotic or urgent, but steady and deliberate, and that steadiness is important, because it tells you this isn't about impulse, it's about discernment, and listen to this. Discernment is the difference between connections that repeat old cycles and connections that build something new, and the energy here is not cyclical, it's clarifying, and your heart needs this right now because clarity doesn't always come with answers, it often comes with peace, the kind of peace that allows you to observe without reacting, to feel without clinging, and to trust without needing guarantees. And listen to this. The person who noticed you is becoming aware of how much effort they've been putting into things that don't nourish them, conversations that feel obligatory, connections that feel performative, routines that feel safe but stagnant, and seeing you highlighted that contrast, not by comparison, but by resonance, because resonance doesn't judge, it simply reveals what feels alive and what doesn't. And this message is for you because you didn't create that contrast intentionally, it emerged naturally as a result of your growth. And growth changes the way energy moves around you, it attracts reflection, it invites honesty, and it challenges complacency. And listen to this, challenge doesn't always lead to immediate change, sometimes it leads to contemplation, to someone sitting quietly with the discomfort of knowing they want more but aren't sure how to get there yet, and that's where they are now, contemplating, reassessing, feeling the pull of something authentic while acknowledging the work it would require to meet it fully. And your heart needs this right now because it confirms that what you're sensing isn't wishful thinking, it's alignment unfolding at a pace that protects both sides from rushing into something ungrounded. And listen to this, protection doesn't always feel exciting, but it feels safe, and safety is what allows something real to take root, and this message is for you because you're no longer interested in intensity without substance, you recognize substance by how calm you feel, by how little you need to over-explain yourself, by how natural it feels to simply exist in your truth. And listen to this, that naturalness is what's holding their attention now, not curiosity alone, but respect, and respect is foundational, it's what turns interest into consideration, and consideration into intention, and intention into action when the timing supports it, and your heart needs this right now because it reminds you that timing is not a test of worth, it's a condition for sustainability. And sustainable connections don't rush emotional processes, they allow them to mature, and listen to this, maturity doesn't mean perfection, it means awareness, responsibility, and willingness to grow, and those qualities are being evaluated internally right now, not by you, but by the person who noticed you, and this message is for you because you don't need to evaluate them in return yet, your role here is simply to remain aligned, to keep choosing what feels right for you, to honor your boundaries, your rhythm, and your intuition, because alignment attracts alignment, and anything that cannot meet you there will naturally fall away without conflict. And listen to this, falling away doesn't always look dramatic, sometimes it looks like fading interest, shifting priorities, or quiet realizations that certain dynamics no longer fit, and that's okay, because space is being created for what does, and your heart needs this right now because it reassures you that you're not losing anything meaningful by staying grounded. You're making room for what's capable of meeting you at this level, and listen to this, as this awareness continues to integrate, you may notice your own standards becoming clearer, not stricter, but more honest, you may feel less tolerant of inconsistency, less interested in explaining yourself, and more comfortable letting things unfold without interference, and that shift is significant, because it signals self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of any healthy connection, and this message is for you because self-trust changes the way you interpret silence. It no longer feels like rejection, it feels like information, and information helps you stay aligned with what supports your growth. And listen to this, the person who noticed you is feeling that difference too. They're aware that you're not waiting, not hovering, not seeking validation, and that awareness creates respect. Because respect grows when someone sees another person standing firmly in their own life rather than orbiting someone else's uncertainty, and your heart needs this right now because it affirms that your independence is not a barrier to connection, it's an invitation to meet you as an equal. And listen to this, equality requires readiness, emotional availability, and accountability. And those qualities don't always arrive simultaneously, they develop through reflection and choice, and that development is happening now, quietly, internally, without needing your involvement. And this message is for you because it allows you to release the urge to monitor or manage the process, trusting instead that what's meant to align will do so through clarity rather than confusion. And listen to this, confusion thrives on mixed signals, but clarity emerges when someone understands their own truth, and understanding takes time, especially when it involves letting go of old patterns, fears, or attachments. And your heart needs this right now because it reminds you that patience here is not about waiting for someone else, it's about honoring your own growth, your own pace, and your own peace. And listen to this, peace is not passive, it's active alignment with what feels right, and you're embodying that now. And as you continue to do so, trust that the energy you're holding is shaping what approaches you, filtering out what cannot meet you, and inviting in what can. And this message is for you because it confirms that nothing meaningful is being delayed, it's being prepared to meet you in a way that respects who you've become. And as this preparation continues, stay rooted in yourself, knowing that recognition has already happened, awareness is integrating, and whatever emerges from that will do so in a way that feels steady, honest, and aligned with the life you're building, because alignment doesn't rush to prove itself, it reveals itself when the foundation is ready to hold it. Stay grounded in this moment, because this is where everything you've sensed without proof begins to settle into quiet understanding, and your heart needs this right now not for reassurance, but for integration, because after patience, reflection, and discernment, something stabilizes, and that stability is what allows truth to exist without pressure. And listen carefully. The energy surrounding this connection has shifted from observation into acknowledgement, not necessarily spoken, not necessarily acted on yet, but acknowledged internally in a way that changes how someone moves forward, because once a person admits to themselves that another's presence has altered their internal landscape, they can't pretend neutrality anymore. And that doesn't mean immediate action, it means responsibility for how they feel, what they want, and whether they're willing to rise to meet what feels real. And this message is for you because you've already crossed that threshold. Within yourself, you're no longer negotiating with your worth, you're no longer wondering if you're asking for too much, you're no longer available for ambiguity that drains rather than builds. And listen to this, that internal shift is what's holding everything steady right now, because steadiness creates a container where clarity can emerge without fear, and fear is what rushes people into half-choices and mixed signals. And your heart needs this right now because you've outgrown that phase. You recognize that what lasts doesn't need urgency, it needs presence, and presence is what you're embodying now. And listen to this, the person who noticed you is beginning to feel the weight of that presence, not as pressure, but as an invitation to be honest with themselves. And honesty has a way of simplifying things, it strips away excuses, it reveals priorities, and it clarifies what truly matters. And this message is for you because you may have noticed how little you're willing to tolerate dissonance now, how quickly your body signals when something feels off, how your intuition speaks more clearly without shouting, and that clarity is not accidental, it's the result of choosing alignment over attachment. And listen to this, alignment doesn't chase, it attracts what can meet it, and anything that approaches you now must be able to stand in your truth without asking you to diminish it. And that requirement is silently understood by the person who noticed you, whether they articulate it yet or not, and your heart needs this right now because it explains why the energy feels calm rather than dramatic, because drama belongs to uncertainty, and certainty doesn't need spectacle, it settles in quietly, confidently, and patiently. And listen to this, patience here is not about waiting for someone else to decide, it's about allowing life to arrange itself in a way that doesn't compromise your peace. And peace has become non-negotiable for you, not because you're closed off, but because you're open in a grounded way. And grounded openness changes the quality of connections that form, it filters out urgency without intention and invites intention without force. And this message is for you because you're no longer interested in decoding behavior, you're interested in observing consistency, and consistency is what builds trust over time, not words, not promises, not fleeting gestures. And listen to this, the person who noticed you is becoming aware of that distinction too. They're recognizing that what drew them to you wasn't excitement alone, it was coherence, the way your inner world and outer expression match, the way you don't perform confidence, you live it, and that coherence is rare, it signals self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is what allows two people to meet without losing themselves. And your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you're no longer meant to lose yourself in connection, you're meant to share yourself, and sharing happens only when there's mutual respect for boundaries, pace, and truth. And listen to this, respect is growing quietly here, not just for you, but for the process itself, because when something feels significant, it's handled with care, and care doesn't rush. It observes, it reflects, and it chooses intentionally. And this message is for you because it allows you to release any lingering need to interpret silence as absence. Silence can be a sign of depth forming, of someone choosing to understand rather than react, and understanding is what prevents misalignment later. And listen to this, you've reached a point where you trust yourself enough to let understanding take its time, because you know that rushing clarity often creates confusion, and confusion is no longer something you're willing to entertain, and your heart needs this right now because it reminds you that you're not being tested. You're being honored by timing that respects your growth. And listen to this. Timing is not about delay, it's about readiness, and readiness is built through reflection, honesty, and alignment, all of which are present now. And this message is for you because it affirms that you don't need to manage outcomes, you only need to remain true to yourself, because truth organizes outcomes naturally. And listen to this, as this phase settles, you may notice a sense of quiet confidence growing within you, not tied to any specific person or result, but rooted in knowing that you're living in alignment with your values. And that confidence is magnetic, it draws in opportunities, connections, and experiences that reflect your inner state, and your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you're no longer chasing signs, you're recognizing patterns, and patterns reveal themselves to those who are present rather than anxious. And listen to this. Presence allows you to feel when something is unfolding in your favor even before it becomes visible, and that feeling is what guides you forward without forcing you to rush. And this message is for you because it reassures you that nothing meaningful is being withheld, it's being arranged in a way that honors your stability, your clarity, and your boundaries. And listen to this, boundaries are not walls, they're invitations to meet you with respect, and anyone who approaches you now must be willing to engage with that respect. Otherwise the connection won't sustain itself, and your heart needs this right now because you're no longer afraid of things falling away. You trust that what remains is what's aligned, and listen to this, alignment doesn't always feel exciting in the moment. Sometimes it feels calm, grounded, and unremarkable, but later it reveals itself as the foundation that allowed everything else to grow. And this message is for you because you're learning to value foundation over fireworks, depth over drama, and consistency over intensity, and that shift is what's shaping what comes next. And listen to this, the person who noticed you is feeling that shift too. They're recognizing that engaging with you would require them to be present, honest, and accountable, and that realization is not taken lightly, because it asks them to rise to a standard rather than pull you down to theirs. And your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you don't need to be more available, more expressive, or more accommodating to be chosen. You need to be exactly as you are, aligned, grounded, and authentic. And listen to this, authenticity is what sustains connection when novelty fades, and novelty always fades, but authenticity deepens. And this message is for you because it's guiding you to continue honoring your own rhythm, trusting your intuition, and allowing things to unfold without interference, because interference often disrupts what patience protects. And listen to this, protection is not restriction, it's guidance, and guidance has been present every step of this process, even when you couldn't see the full picture. And your heart needs this right now because it reminds you that you're not behind, you're exactly where you need to be for what's aligning to meet you fully, honestly, and without compromise. And as this awareness completes its integration, trust that whatever emerges will do so from a place of clarity rather than confusion, intention rather than impulse, and mutual respect rather than imbalance, because that is the standard you now live by. And anything that enters your life must be able to stand in that space without asking you to step out of yourself, and that alone is proof that you've already arrived at a place of alignment that shapes everything that follows. Remain in this space for a moment, because what's unfolding now is not about anticipation or outcome, it's about embodiment. And your heart needs this right now because embodiment is the stage where everything you've learned, healed, and integrated begins to live through you naturally, without effort, without explanation, and without compromise. And listen closely, this is the phase where the universe stops nudging and starts responding, not with dramatic signs, but with alignment that feels almost ordinary until you realize how different your inner experience has become. And that difference matters, because it's the signal that you're no longer waiting to be chosen, you're choosing your own truth first, and everything else organizes around that choice. And this message is for you because you've crossed a threshold that many people sense but don't fully step into, the threshold where peace becomes more important than potential, where clarity outweighs chemistry, and where respect feels more attractive than attention. And listen to this, the energy that noticed you earlier is now meeting a version of you that cannot be rushed, cannot be swayed by uncertainty, and cannot be pulled back into old patterns. And that changes everything, because when someone encounters a person who is fully rooted in themselves, it forces a reckoning, not just about connection, but about life direction, emotional readiness, and personal integrity. And your heart needs this right now because it explains why the pace has slowed rather than accelerated, why things feel deliberate rather than impulsive, because slowness here is not hesitation, it's precision, and precision is how the universe protects what's meant to last. And listen to this, lasting connections are not built on adrenaline, they're built on presence, mutual accountability, and shared values. And you're now living from a place where those qualities are non-negotiable. and that doesn't close doors, it filters them, and this message is for you because filtering is not loss, it's refinement, and refinement brings you closer to what actually fits rather than what simply feels familiar. And listen to this, familiarity can be deceptive, it can feel comfortable even when it limits growth, but you've moved beyond that. You can feel when something aligns with your nervous system rather than triggers it. And that awareness is guiding you now more than emotion ever could, and your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you're not cold or detached, you're regulated, and regulation allows you to experience connection without losing yourself, without overextending, and without abandoning your needs. And listen to this, the person who once observed you from a distance is now aware that engaging with you would require emotional maturity, consistency, and honesty, not perfection, but effort. And that awareness is sobering in a way that's healthy, because it shifts the dynamic from fantasy to reality. And reality is where real connection lives, and this message is for you because you're no longer interested in being idealized, you want to be understood, and understanding takes time, conversation, and presence. And listen to this, presence is what you're offering now, not performance, not chasing, not proving, just presence. And presence has a way of clarifying everything without words. And your heart needs this right now because it's easy to confuse quiet periods with stagnation, but this quiet is fertile, it's where intentions solidify, where priorities align, and where choices become conscious rather than reactive. And listen to this, you may notice that your reactions to uncertainty have softened. You're less inclined to fill gaps with assumptions, less tempted to rush clarity, and more comfortable allowing things to reveal themselves in their own time. And that comfort is a sign of self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of any connection that doesn't drain you. And this message is for you because you've learned that self-trust doesn't mean closing your heart, it means opening it wisely, and wisdom is what's guiding you now. Even if it doesn't always feel exciting. And listen to this, excitement fades, but wisdom sustains, and sustained connections are built on the ability to sit with uncertainty without panic, to communicate without manipulation, and to choose each other from a place of clarity rather than fear. And you're embodying that now, and your heart needs this right now because it confirms that you're no longer operating from urgency, you're operating from intention, and intention shapes reality more effectively than desire alone. And listen to this, the universe responds to intention by arranging circumstances that support it, and that arrangement often happens quietly, through subtle shifts, chance encounters, changed schedules, or unexpected conversations that feel aligned rather than forced. And this message is for you because you may soon notice life feeling more cooperative, less resistant, as if things are meeting you halfway, and that's not coincidence, it's alignment responding to alignment. And listen to this, alignment doesn't guarantee a specific outcome, it guarantees integrity. And integrity ensures that whatever unfolds does so without costing you your peace. And your heart needs this right now because peace is no longer something you're willing to sacrifice for connection. You understand now that real connection enhances peace rather than disrupts it. And listen to this, anyone who enters your life now must be able to exist within that peace, not disturb it. And that requirement is felt energetically long before it's spoken. And this message is for you because you're learning to trust what feels steady rather than what feels urgent, and that trust is reshaping your experiences in ways you may not fully recognize yet. And listen to this, recognition often comes later, when you look back and realize how certain moments marked the beginning of a new chapter simply because you chose yourself differently. And this is one of those moments, a moment where you're choosing presence over prediction, alignment over attachment, and truth over illusion. and your heart needs this right now because it affirms that you're not missing anything by staying grounded. You're preparing to receive what can meet you without asking you to compromise. And listen to this, compromise of self is not love. It's survival, and you've moved beyond survival. You're living in intention, and intention attracts partners, opportunities, and experiences that resonate at the same frequency, and this message is for you because it's guiding you to remain open but discerning, receptive but anchored, and hopeful without expectation. And listen to this, expectation can create pressure, but hope rooted in self-trust creates space. And space is where authentic connection grows, and your heart needs this right now. Because it reassures you that you're not behind, you're ahead of patterns that once limited you, and ahead of cycles that once repeated themselves. And listen to this, breaking cycles doesn't always feel triumphant, sometimes it feels quiet, almost anticlimactic, but that quiet is the sound of stability forming, and stability is what allows love to exist without fear, without games, and without exhaustion. And this message is for you because you're learning to recognize stability not as boring, but as nourishing, and nourishing connections don't demand your energy, they replenish it. And listen to this, as you continue to live from this place, trust that whatever approaches you will do so with clarity rather than confusion, with respect rather than uncertainty, and with intention rather than hesitation, because that is the standard you now hold, not as a rule, but as a reflection of who you've become. And as this phase settles, allow yourself to appreciate the calm, the groundedness, and the quiet confidence that now defines you, because that state is not a pause, it's the foundation upon which everything meaningful is built, and what's built on a solid foundation doesn't need to rush, it stands, it grows, and it lasts.